dead for hours. Then she opened her eyes. This case is 100% real, verified through coroner reports, law enforcement files, and national news coverage. It began just after sunrise on June 17, 2014, when the early morning fog still clung to the banks of Lake Townsend, North Carolina. A local fisherman named Harold Riggins had taken his boat out before work, as he often did when the water was quiet and the air smelled of pine. What he found floating just beyond the dock would haunt him forever. It was a young woman, face up, fully clothed, eyes closed, her skin was ashen, her limbs stiff. There was no movement, no breath, nothing but the gentle lap of water against her body. Riggins called 911, his voice shaking. Police arrived within minutes. EMTs confirmed no pulse. The woman was presumed dead. There were no signs of trauma or injury. Her clothing was intact and she had no identification on her. As procedure dictated, she was listed as Jane Doe and transported to the local morgue in a black body bag. 3 hours later, chaos erupted. In the cold steel silence of the morgue, one of the medical examiners approached the bag for routine intake. As they unzipped it, a breath of frost escaped. Then the woman's eyes opened. She sat up. The examiner stumbled backward, screaming. The morgue nurse dropped a tray. The woman's lips were blue, her skin cold, her eyes unfocused. But she was alive. Doctors at the nearby hospital rushed to stabilize her. Her core temperature had been recorded at 78 degrees Fahrenheit, hypothermic to the point of clinical death. There had been no recorded pulse at the lake. Her vitals were inconsistent. Yet here she was, breathing, blinking, and very much alive. She couldn't remember her name, or where she'd come from, or why she'd been in the lake. Only fragments surfaced, being near the water. Someone behind her, a sudden blow, then darkness. She repeated those same broken images over and over, even as her vitals returned to normal. I was pushed, she whispered again and again. Eventually, she was identified through missing persons databases. Her name was Emma Whitmore, a 19-year-old college student from the University of North Carolina. She had vanished a week earlier during finals week. Her roommate had assumed she'd left for a surprise trip home. Her parents were out of town and hadn't filed a report. No one had realized she was missing. Police reopened the case immediately. Search teams combed the lakefront where her body had been found. A partial shoe print was discovered in the muddy shoreline, one that didn't match Emma's or anyone assigned to the case. Further out, tangled in reeds, divers found a torn section of fabric that matched her jacket. But there were no fingerprints, no witnesses, no security footage, no leads. Emma told detectives that she'd been walking alone late that night, stressed after exams. She said she remembered someone behind her, heavy footsteps, and then a sharp pain in the back of her head, that was all. The medical report confirmed she'd suffered a mild concussion, consistent with blunt force trauma, but not severe enough to cause long-term memory loss or unconsciousness for days. There were no signs of drowning, no water in her lungs. As far as the coroner was concerned, she hadn't drowned. She had simply stopped. Some began to speculate. Could it have been a drug-induced coma? Hypothermia from being submerged in cold water too long? But there was one problem. Emma had no drugs in her system. None, not even alcohol. Others whispered something else, something that couldn't be explained. That perhaps she had died, not metaphorically, literally, and that somehow she came back. Emma was released from the hospital 2 weeks later. But she didn't return to school. She didn't speak publicly. Her family issued a statement that she needed privacy, peace, and time to heal. But those close to her say she was never the same. She refused to be near water, kept her lights on while she slept, spoke rarely. Some nights, her mother would find her curled up on the floor whispering, "I think I was meant to stay down there." 2 years later, Emma moved out of state and cut ties with most of her friends. She never gave a formal interview, never told her story in full. But one thing is certain, something happened to her in that lake, something no one can explain. And the question remains, if she wasn't meant to survive, and then what brought her back?